Well, good morning, everybody. We'll get the session underway. Thank you for joining us, making time this morning. Today, we're going to give you a bit of an overview of the Safety Innovation Award that we won late last year. As you can see on there, it was from the HVIA, part of their national award system, and it was based around risk management and driver behaviour and monitoring. So, without further ado, I'll crack into that. I'll turn my video off and we'll get into it. So unlike previous webinars where there's a particular flow, this one might seem a little bit disjointed apart because what we've chosen to do this time is actually follow the submission in why we were awarded it and follow their process. So it was about an introduction to who we are and what we do, the originality of the product, the impact it has on business, the effectiveness of the innovation, the transferability of the solution and technology, and also about consultation and engagement. So again, we'll follow that sort of theme and that process. There's the option there to add questions. Feel free to ask them either directly as yourself, or if you want to put them in anonymously. If it's directly relevant to a part of the process we're at, Scott will interrupt me and ask that question. If not, we'll save them for the sort of 5 to 10 minute Q&A at the end. So thanks very much. So quick intro to who we are. We've been doing this for over 20 years. We have a long experience in coaching to changing risk behavior, and we use technology to help us understand what's going on in your fleet. Our singular focus is to get everybody home safe every day, and that system is designed to uncover the risks in your on-road operations to help you then manage them, and do that as part of a safety management system, whether you have a direct processing platform or whether you use our platform to help you manage and mitigate and reduce those number of accidents. So our safety foundation is based on what a lot of you will already be aware of in terms of Heinrich's industrial accident matrix. So what it says is for every one major, there are 29 minor collisions. As a precursor to that, there are 300. And as you can see in the pyramid there, the visible risk is what everybody knows. Your vehicle comes back and it's damaged, it's been in an accident, or you've had a phone call to say there's been a serious collision. And then the unknown risk, which is the area that we specialize in, and that's where our safety innovation fits, is that ability to change and measure that near collision and high risk and risky behaviors part of the pyramid. So the key to this is you can avoid collisions by changing driver behavior before it becomes a major issue. And that's one of the few things that we can all agree on, regardless of what technology you currently have or where you are in your safety journey, is if you can stop it from happening, it's a far better outcome. And building on that, we can look at how this works. So in context of the Australian marketplace, $30 billion a year plus is the cost to business in terms of dealing with accidents that happen in our fleet. We also know that driving is a particularly dangerous occupation for people, depending on the driving task. Whether it's long haul, you might have issues around fatigue. When you have distribution and other fleet options, you have other risks in terms of working in metropolitan or regional areas. Each has a slightly different profile. But one of the things that we can agree on is the percentage of accidents and incidents that are caused by drivers. So what I'd like you to do now, I'd like you to think of a number between 1 and 100, and that number is the percentage of accidents caused by drivers. So have a think about your own experience and where you sit in your operations, and what percentage do you think accidents are caused by your drivers? The answer is 83%. So 83% are directly related to bad human judgment, bad decision making, risky and dangerous behavior, and that's happening every day across every fleet for a variety of reasons, and that's one of the major causes and leads to that $30 billion a year. Additionally, 10% are caused by road conditions and 7% vehicle maintenance type issues. And so as you can see, 83% of those collisions and 80% of that $30 billion a year is an area that we can focus on as businesses and as members of our logistics and transport community. So talking about the originality of the solution and its innovation timeline, you can see from the left of your screen, we have the accelerometers and GPS triggers, the development of ECM CAN bus triggers, being able to take stuff directly off the vehicle systems, and into the area where we are today in terms of looking at the machine view, AI, insights and capabilities, and in the very near future, road facing. And we'll go on to those in some detail now. So when we talk about HVIA technology, machine vision and artificial intelligence, what we're talking about is a system where the device is able to perform a number of these tasks independent of the system. So it's doing it on its own, and it's doing it in the cab in real time. And one of the bases for that is a continuous learning cycle, the algorithm on the device, the curated data at scale that we have in our system to have taught the AI, and the actual detection system. So by working continuously to improve the detection process, MV and AI technology allows us to accurately detect the behaviors. And as we saw in the earlier slide, 83% of accidents are caused by those behaviors. What gets me excited about these new innovations is the impact it has on safety. 80% of drivers who want to do self-improvement will improve with the process of AI in-cab alerts and monitoring them. It encourages them to drive safer, take less risks, and as a result, some of our customers see upwards of 60 to 80% reduction. And we'll go into some of that when we look at the validation process. So this technology is more than just telematic. It's more than just dash cam. It's actually using the lens as a sensor, and that is a fundamental change in detection, particularly when you look through the lens of privacy. Because when we talk about organized fleets, you have lots of sensitivity to driver privacy. This technology allows us to work hand in hand with that. We're not breaching the in-cab privacy of the driver. We're allowing the system to use the detection methodology, and it's not recording. It is not taking a physical image. It is actually just using the lens as a sensor. So we'll just briefly watch a couple of videos to help explain. It will take a little bit less time than it would be for myself to do it, so please.
What do you get when you unite machine vision with artificial intelligence? A super-powered technology that can help solve tough problems. One looks through images and recognizes specific objects, activities, or behaviors. The other interprets information and learns from it to achieve a specific goal, like detecting risky or distracted driving. Imagine a driver on the phone behind the wheel. While machine vision sees what's happening, artificial intelligence understands what's risky. Together, they can assess a situation and predict potential outcomes, all the while learning, improving, and becoming more sophisticated over time. This combination can be incredibly powerful at identifying, analyzing, and recognizing patterns. But it can't do this without high-quality data, and lots of it. Subpar data creates inaccurate results, while high-quality data produces more precise results. More importantly, this data needs to be accurately labeled so the artificial intelligence can continually learn and know what to look for. How does this happen? Humans. Professionals with intelligence and context can label data as precisely as possible to account for a wide range of patterns, along with all their different variations. Remember, not all machine vision and artificial intelligence technologies are created equal. Lytx takes technology, tons of high-quality data, and human analysts, all working together to provide a view of fleet risk you can trust. When done right, this frees up time for people like you to focus on what matters most, keeping your drivers and fleet protected and your business running smoothly.
And again, just in context to provide some further information, we'll look at the actual data side of things.
Not all machine vision and artificial intelligence are created equal. So how do you tell which solution is best? We know what it takes for these technologies to accurately surface patterns and identify risk. Now we'll see how Lytx proactively detects risky driving with high precision to serve up opportunities for coaching that inform without overwhelming. At Lytx, we combine video telematics with machine vision, artificial intelligence, and driving data to help solve our industry's most critical problems, like distracted driving. We tap into over 100 billion miles of driving data that we've collected over the years. But why is this so important, and why should you care? Because high-quality, validated data is the best way to train custom artificial intelligence to deliver the most accurate results. What sets our data apart? For starters, our unmatched volume of high-quality data gives us a more complete view of true risk. Then there's variety. Diverse information helps separate anomalies from confirmed patterns across a wide range of driving scenarios. Another key element is the velocity, the speed at which we capture data. Collecting lots of data quickly helps us update and improve our artificial intelligence technology. So it's always learning, refining, and getting better. But all this input doesn't matter if it's delivering useless information. And that's why our professional analysts work 24/7 to meticulously label high volumes of data. What does this mean for your fleet? Value. Lytx cuts through the noise to deliver moments that represent true risk throughout your driver's day. This lets you focus on coachable moments that actually matter and make a difference, keeping your drivers and fleet protected and your business running smoothly.
So again, as we can see here, managing in-cab distractions, the unsafe habits that we all have, and the risky indicators, critical distance, following distance, those sort of things. These are all habits that we all have every day when we're driving, whether we drive twice a day to the office and home, or whether we drive multiple times a day performing our duties out on the roads. There's a wide variety of issues that we face, and distraction and inattentive certainly are some of the leading indicators as to why we have these issues on our roads. So in terms of how we look at this, we take it in terms of the more risky and the leading behaviors: eating and drinking, mobile handheld, no seatbelt, smoking, and inattentive. Now you might think, seatbelt isn't dangerous in terms of causing an issue, but if you are involved in a crash because of some of the other distractions and inattentive behaviors, a seatbelt certainly is going to change you. So machine vision was added to our fleet of SF300 event recorders in July 2020, and this has delivered a critical part of our growth in that we are now helping customers deliver more safer outcomes across their fleet. The machine vision does this analysis for us in real time in the vehicle and gives us a high level of accuracy. What we'll do now is I'm going to walk through a couple of videos with you and we'll loop back to them. The first one I'll pause as soon as it starts, just so I can explain a few things here. So as you can see, the different types: just mobile phone only, food and drink, phone and smoking, and the big kahuna, somebody doing pretty much all of those behaviors. So let me just pause that here. I'm having difficulty here. Just wait till the end of this session and we'll explain. As you can see, the different lines relate to each of the different behaviors. We'll just jump forward. So this is a one that I should be able to stop. I think it's because I'm in pointer mode. It's not allowing me to do it. I'll explain as we go along. So as you can see, a cell phone is indicated by the red. This is a 2-minute clip of 120 seconds of activity. The different lines are the different behaviors, the different levels of accuracy from 0 to 100%. And as you can see from the lines here, the accuracy levels when these behaviors are being performed are certainly there. So I'll do this one again. And as you can see, mobile phone's away. He's now beginning to, pick it up. He's looking down at the phone. So even when the phone isn't in the view of the camera, the pattern matching of the behavior, location of the eyes and the head gives us a high confidence that it's still an accurate representation of the driver behavior at that point in time. So when all these things are taken into account, these clips allow you as a manager to actually have an independent, qualified conversation with your driver about the behavior. It's no longer he said, she said. It's factual. You can get your driver to have a look and say, what's happening? What do you think's going on? How can we reinforce this change of behavior and move forward so that you get better outcomes? Before machine vision and AI was available to us, these behaviors were undetectable. You only got these as an ad hoc once an event had been reviewed and we could see that the event took place, the driver was unbelted, smoking and on his mobile phone when the accident happened. Whereas now we've gone from a reactive to a proactive system where we're capturing more events, more data, and making it safer for fleet managers to manage their fleet. So when we talk about the impact on business, previously most risk on the road went undetected. That's no longer true with machine vision and AI. It gives us unprecedented levels of detection and it allows change behavior to take place across your fleet, and understanding those behaviors and enabling the drivers to understand those behaviors allows operators to make a positive impact on that risk that you have. And again, a lot of this behavior is subconscious. While we're driving along, we start thinking about that next call, that next drop, that next changeover, whatever it might be. We need to get our focus back on to the driving task. So let's look at the effectiveness of the innovation. So here we can see over the different period of the 4 quarters of the year, food and drink observed, distraction, food and drink distraction, different levels and different volumes of the types of risk in this particular client fleet. What we can see over the period of time is we've reduced the risk by over 74%. We've reduced the risk severity by over 64%, and the frequency of events per vehicle is down 10%. So let me just put this into context for you. So the client is onboarded. We've started deploying and putting on the device. And this is in the traditional methodology where we're measuring GPS, ECM type triggers. Through the coaching program, they've then brought their risk down through effective coaching and management of their fleet. And then in this period of July onwards, when we start to introduce the machine vision triggers, you can see that the risk comes up again as we're now detecting more levels of risk. And as I say, when we talk about things where you have a potential near collision, these matters significantly increase the outcomes of likely having a more serious event happen. And then through coaching, we can see they start to bring their risk down again. And then because safety is a journey, you're not keeping a focus on 3 or 4 behaviors. In our risk modeling, we have over 60 behaviors that we assist customers to manage. And so as you bring the risk down with one set of risks, periodically, be that 3-month, 6-monthly, you then add in or change out some of the risks you want to manage. And so you constantly will have this cycle of increasing risk showing up in your dashboard and then managing those particular risks out of your business. Again, as we can see here, same sort of process. The initial risk spike when the program became active, effectively managing the program. The new MV and AI triggers peaking for this customer around November, and then over the next quarter, then managing that risk and bringing it down. And as you can see, it's all about food and drink, handheld, electronic devices, other various items that get caught. And these will all, excuse me, vary from fleet to fleet, depending on your operations and the on-road tasks. But again, you can start to see greater things. So when we talk about food and drink observed, you can then start saying, what's happening in the business? Why are our drivers eating and drinking and not doing so during their scheduled breaks in their shift? Has something changed in the business pattern of the operations? It gives you a greater insight into why these are occurring. Again, a different snapshot for a different customer. You can see the same risk profile, the MV and AI becoming prevalent, and then managing it down. And in this instance, one of the big issues this customer has is their fundamentals of following distance of between 1 and 2 seconds. Their drivers are driving far too close to the vehicles in front of them. Obviously, an issue with handheld mobile phones. And obviously, we can differentiate between whether the handheld or hands-free was part of the process. Because again, even when you have the phone in your hand, you exhibit a certain level of risk because you're distracted from the driving task. Add in speed, that's becoming an even greater risk. So even when you're on hands-free, your brain is processing and concentrating on the call and the speech that you're hearing. It's not necessarily focused directly on the on-road task. So again, there is still a significant risk. As you can see here, awareness and late response. If you've got people who are distracted, driving too close to the people in front and exhibiting late response, it's only a matter of time before you have a collision and potentially a serious one. And the final scenario to look at, in this case, this particular client, you can see here again, the risk spike from the technology being detected, and then the process. So you can see here, this November to January period was significant. And that was true with a lot of customers that onboarded in that period with us. We have some customers now who are exclusively just SF300 with machine vision. So they've never experienced that sort of traditional process that we see here. Long term, they're seeing it as a huge spike. Because again, when you're not aware of what's happening, you think that your policies are robust, but no policy is effective once the driver leaves the depot. You just don't know what's happening out there. We see that now, and we give you a far greater chance of dealing with it and looking at the root cause of why that's happening in your fleet. And just to emphasize that, this graph here shows a pilot that was done with 1,500 vehicles over 39 weeks. So what you're looking at here is the percentage of time that a mobile phone was used. The purple line is the number of vehicles involved in that cohort of 1,500. And week 29 here is where we actually turned on the in-cab alerts. So again, we're not capturing an event, we're not capturing any video, but the devices match the pattern using the lens as a sensor to say mobile phone detected, distracted. The driver then has an opportunity to self-correct, put the phone away, focus on the on-road task. And as you can see from the numbers there, over the remaining period of the trial, the percentage of drivers who self-corrected and changed that behavior was over 50%. And again, with a customer who had over 100,000 vehicles, this sample of 1,500 had a huge impact on their business and the amount of risk that they were undertaking every day in their operations. So we now come to the area of transferability. And one of the areas this was key about was how do you go about dealing with behavior? Now, a lot of companies and operations view it in the context of, oh, we're line haul, we're distribution, we're fleet service, we're an operation that has, off-road capability where we're, fixing poles and wires. Everyone views it through the configuration of their vehicle as opposed to the proactive engagement of drivers. You can ignore the vehicle type or task to a certain extent because you're dealing with a fundamental. If you focus on the driver and get the driver to recognize that behavior and to change it and to cognitively engage with the business in being a better driver on our roads, you have a greater return on your investment in terms of safety, productivity, and costs, because you're dealing with the driver, not the vehicle. So in terms of transferability, this device and this technology is equally at home in white fleet, grey fleet, in your yellow fleet, line haul, whatever the driving task. There are different elements and different nuances to each on-road task, but fundamentally engaging your drivers is critical to the success of your safety operations. In terms of consultation and engagement, the intent behind this was they were looking at technologies that weren't set and forget. It was about, okay, what happens after we say yes? So being able to show that the pre-installation, we have implementation meetings, change management meetings, driver inductions, video handouts, training. All of these make for a better outcome because people don't turn up one day and find they've got some new technology in their vehicle. Prior to that happening, they've been consulted, they understand what's happening, why it's happening. And again, every customer is different. We all have policies and procedures. Some of them are more advanced than others. Other customers are smaller, more agile businesses. Others are large corporates where they have change management teams and HR teams. So again, depending on where you are in your safety journey, there are different elements to that consultation and engagement process. And what happens after the fact? So again, from our perspective, this is a safety journey. It's not a see you later at the end of a contract in 2 years, 3 years, whatever. It's about getting the value out of the system every day, every week, and every month. And that's why we offer a process where there's ongoing system training month to month for new staff. There are weekly meetings during pilot and then monthly meetings with clients. There are pulse reports, quarterly reports. There are new BI suite. There's a whole range of constant ongoing support to make sure our clients get the best out of the system and manage the risks out of their fleet operations. So again, there's a bit of a wrap up. What we see is the fact that you now have unmatched detection, accuracy, and support that will allow you to get the best out of your fleet productivity safely and to help you identify those risks and manage them effectively by engaging your drivers. So again, as you can see on the screen there, there's a number of us in the team. We're always helpful, happy to have a chat, discuss what you're thinking about, why you're looking at these types of systems and the pros and cons of them. I'll end the webinar there and we'll open a Q&A to anybody who might have any questions.
All right.
Okay.
All right. You need to open up the microphones.
Yep, there we go.
All right, thanks very much, Dave. Very informative. I've got a couple of questions here. What do you mean when you say curated data? What do you mean by that, please?
Okay, so having over 60 behavior types, every event clip, and again, an event clip is a 12-second recording, 8 seconds prior to the event, 4 seconds after the event. That allows us to determine what behaviors were exhibited prior to and after. as well as the root cause and also the outcomes. Every one of those clips gets curated by an analyst, and they tag all those relevant behaviors. So if they see that the vehicle was driving too fast, it was too close to the vehicle in front, they were distracted with their mobile phone while eating, smoking, as many of those behaviors that are present in that clip are recorded and added to that profile. So when we want to say, show me a clip with distracted driving, we can singularly focus on that group or subset of data to teach the AI. So subsequently, the AI learns that this particular pattern where my head is moving is associated with this behavior. So then in the vehicle, as it's monitoring the pattern using the lens as a sensor, it matches that pattern. If there's a greater than 95% match, it then triggers that audio alert to say distracted mobile phone, gives me the opportunity to put my phone away and focus on the driving task. If I continue doing it, it then generates a traditional alert. But again, curated data means we have over 20 years of video data that has been fully tagged and curated to give us a high level of accuracy.
Okay, all right, good. I've got another question here from Steve. How is this different from a smart dash cam?
There's a couple of fundamental issues. So again, depending on the type of smart cam, we have different types. Some are cloud-based, some are card-based. It's looking ahead. It's recording everything. So sometimes you'll see on the news that there's been an accident, and then a couple of months later you see that this accident occurred a couple of months ago, and the driver's now being charged with 37 counts. So what happens there is the authorities, when they're involved in a crash, they will sequester any drive cams, dash cams, smart cams, whatever it is. They will take all of that and they will review every bit of data. So if you've got a camera recording 200 or 300 hours of footage, they will review all of that footage and they will charge you with every breach of the road and traffic violations that they find on that. So again, a fundamental difference is whether it's a smart cam, a dash cam, or a drive cam, is making sure that it's event-based, so that when there is an issue, your risk is mitigated to being just that single clip, not every clip that's on the camera, regardless of its type. You want to be able to mitigate your risk, and that's why we pursue an event-based type process. So again, that's one of the fundamental differences. And I say there's a large variety of those different types of cameras out there, but ostensibly that's where you need to focus on mitigating your risk, is how do we control access to and from that data, and how much data are we going to expose to any potential liability.
Okay, good. I've got another one here from Dave. Where do you see the technology moving from here in terms of the machine vision?
Well, again, there's two factors. There's both the internal facing lens and the road facing lens. Obviously, in terms of our timeline, we have the road facing. At this point in time, it's just purely a mapping issue. But ostensibly, in the very near future, we will be able to use the device to recognize road signs. So we will know, or the vehicle will know, I'm coming up to a stop sign. Did my vehicle stop at that stop sign, or did it roll through? And again, to put some context into that, in public sector fleet, which is part of the area of my responsibility, over 55% of accidents in public sector fleet are because of poor rolling stops. So they actually roll through intersections. It could be there, in the last mile to their base, depot, office. Familiar with their poor spatial awareness, they don't stop, and they end up with a side impact. So again, being able to proactively say to people through in-cab alerting that there's a stop sign, or if they don't stop, recording that event or giving them some feedback, that adds a huge amount of value to be able to mitigate the risk of those types of accidents. From an internal facing, as more and more devices become true, and this is a wider conversation around in-cab convergence. You've got lots of different types of devices, ADAS, whether it's integrated or not with your camera systems, The driver has lots of in-cab feedback and potential noise. So being able to highlight what is specific to your operations and giving feedback in cab on those through various means, whether that's auditory or visual or combinations of both, they play a big part in that. But ostensibly the AI in the device is in itself smart. It learns the behavior. So, when somebody has a drive cam installed, over the first couple of weeks of operation, it builds a better picture of the people driving that vehicle. It starts to recognize the patterns of behavior in that cab from that cohort of vehicles. Obviously, that is a much quicker learning process if it's a one-to-one relationship in your vehicle. But where you have 8 to 10 drivers perhaps sharing one vehicle, it will learn quite quickly the different types of pattern behavior. You can then look at what are the differences. Why is there a different driving style? Why is there a different process or risk profile for that vehicle on different days for different drivers and all those sort of things? And that's where that data is taking us. We'll have much more data, and that data will allow us to give greater insight into those risks.
All right, very good. I think that's it. I don't have any more questions. Thanks very much for the webinar, Dave. Fascinating to see, how why we were awarded the safety innovation. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time this morning. Hopefully your day pans out safely and everyone gets home safe. Drive safe. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.